Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Life by Design podcast. On this week's episode, I welcome back the one and only Shani Timms. In this episode, we recap 2024, our wins, our challenges in business, life, and love. In this week's episode, expect to learn all about Shani taking friendships to a whole new level, Shani shutting down a $100,000 business offer, life with all things pregnancy and proposal, being consumed by business, and much, much more. Enjoy the episode. Now, guys, before we start this week's episode of the podcast, I want to talk to you about the Life by Design Mastermind. The Life by Design Mastermind is the mastermind for go-getters and high achievers who are looking to create a more successful, fulfilling, and balanced life by design. If you're serious about transforming your life, achieving your goals, and living a life on your terms, then the Life by Design is your golden ticket. Head over to the show notes and click on the link for more details about the program. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
We are back.
2024 recap. When did we last do a podcast? Oh, we did pregnancy and proposals last time.
Yeah, that was only like a month ago.
Yeah, it's fresh.
Yeah, very fresh. Not too far in the past.
This time we are doing 2024 recap, in particular around life, business, love, and wins and challenges. Because wins, you see them on social media, but challenges, you often don't see on social media. They're just tucked in behind.
That's true.
So we're talking about it today. Let's start, sweetheart, with
that's a good rhyme. I like it.
Life win, life challenge, kickoff proceedings.
Okay, cool. I feel like it's so good because we always have this format. So it'd be good for us to go back over and like see the previous years, the wins and challenges. So I think I'm going to start with the life challenge because I think it kind of like filters into all the rest. Usually the challenges become the wins. So start of the year, I was like so head down, bum up in business and I just went all in. I think there was a couple of things at play. The first being that this is kind of what it felt like the last stint of me, in business without having a baby. So it felt like this, clock that was just ticking in the background that like I had to get all this shit done before, we weren't even pregnant at this stage, but I know we were wanting to conceive. So they kind of felt like this, imaginary clock ticking in the background, ticking over that caused me to dive straight into business. And I had also changed over my business model. And so it felt like I was very sidetracked by business, but it really wasn't until you pulled me out of it, Blake. And it was probably, nearing halfway through the year. And you said to me, you were like, I feel like you're not putting as much effort into the other things in life. And business has like been such a huge priority for you for the start of this year. And that looked like not putting as much effort into our relationship, into friendships, into health, all the things. And as soon as you said that, it's like something flicked a switch in my mind. And I was like, fuck, like that's so true. It's like I say I value relationships, but I'm putting business first. I say I value friendships, but I'm putting business first. And it was just such a good wake-up call for me to realize like business isn't everything. I know this is a life win. It will circle back to being a life challenge as well. But after that wake-up call, I really started to reevaluate how much effort I was putting into things and like where I was, being intentional and where I really wasn't being intentional. And I think a big part was, in our relationships, like even I just felt such a difference when I started to put more intention, I know it sounds silly, but into making dinner. And I know that you felt the change too. It's like, you're not just making dinner, like you're actually intentionally making dinner for us or like intentionally cleaning the house or intentionally, organizing date night. And I think that's actually going to be my word for next year was like, just starting to infuse intention into everything that I was doing instead of just slapdashing it and trying to get back into work, actually being there, being present, giving it my all. So yeah, that was really my huge challenge was just like being so sidetracked by business that I just almost forgot, all of the amazing things that were happening in life. And this probably has been the biggest year of life, falling pregnant and, traveling to Bali for your 40th. And getting engaged and, traveling to Hamilton Island and everything. Like there was so much life happening, but my blinkers were on just like business, success in business. And so I was really, really grateful for that wake up call just to be like, fuck, it almost like woke me up from this slumber to be like, oh yeah, like, business is 1% of my life, but I was treating it like everything.
Excellent, baby. I would completely agree.
What about, did you have something to say on it?
No, I've literally got nothing to add to that.
That's interesting for you.
I'd like to add something, but I've got nothing. Challenge this year, and to be fair, the last kind of 5 years have been relatively smooth. Obviously, most people know my story prior to the last 5 years, but there's always stuff happening for sure. I think this year, probably upon reflection, it'd be interesting to see if you agree. Probably less challenges than even the last 4 years. Like, it has been really smooth. And even when I was coming up with the challenges, I really had to kind of stretch my mind to think it through, which again, swings and roundabouts, next year will probably be a very different story, but the one that just isn't massive, but really just sits in the background and has irritated me is just this constant like little niggles of injuries. Anyone who's been injured or had injuries knows how annoying they are. And they haven't been so paralyzing that they've stopped me, but I just haven't been able to get to the bottom of it. And I feel like weather and injuries and not moving forward are three things in my life that really irk me and get to me. So I've been able to kind of do life, but for someone who loves his training, these injuries have just limited me a bit. And to be honest, I actually don't have the answers for it, which is even more annoying, because if I have the answers, then I can provide, or find a solution, I can move forward. But in particular, this shoulder injury, I've seen 4 or 5 people. I know I don't have to get surgery. Well, I'm told by the 4 or 5 people that I don't have to get surgery, but I still don't have answers. And I've tried different osteopaths. I've started seeing energy healers. And every time I get a treatment, like it helps, but there's still no diagnosis yet, which is really doing my head in. So that would be the one that stands out. And I think, at the start of the year, the shoulder was there. It was there last year. It's almost been like a 2-year niggle. But it really becomes more important for me now, knowing that I need good health in my shoulders to be able to carry a baby and make the most of that. So,
And change your nappy.
and change nappies, most importantly. That's what I need my shoulders for. And so I really want to get to the bottom of it before our little girl comes in April. And yeah, it's just frustrating because I hate not having answers. So I'll just continue to kind of chip away at that. But that would be the one that stands out, is just a little kind of niggle that's been in the background for a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think it has been a more of a, I don't want to say a chill year, but it hasn't been like you've I think last year you did quite a few journeys and whatnot, whereas this year it's kind of felt maybe you've picked a few journeys to do rather than doing a lot of them. And anyone who does lots of journeys, you know that it brings up like all the shit.
Yeah, and that was, well, I might as well just go straight into it then. I might as well go into my win, which the win this year is really just the dust has settled, off the back of literally what Shani just said. It's been a super smooth year, and I didn't intentionally come into this year thinking that I would take a year of personal development off, but at the start of the year, I just didn't really feel called massively to it. And I guess it's relative. Like, I haven't taken the whole year off. I've probably done about 20, I think I did 12 IFS sessions with Megs. I did 6 or 7 shadow work sessions with Breezer, and I've done, a couple of journeys.
Yeah.
There's still a bit there, but relative to the last 5 years, which was just, on acceleration from a point of the work, it's probably felt the lightest year of work that I've done in a long time. And it just, for me, it gave everything an opportunity to settle in terms of the dust and really the embodiment of it as well. And I think I even said to you at one point, I can't remember the language, you might remember it better than me, something along the lines of, I don't feel like I've grown this much, and you kind of reflected back to me that you saw it differently. But in my head, there was an equation of like, you do the work and therefore you grow. But the embodiment of it this year has felt, I guess the embodiment really came this year from the last 4 or 5 years of work.
And I would argue that you've grown more this year than any other year. And it's been just probably growth that hasn't looked like it had in the past. It's been a very grounded growth. It's been there feels like a lot of confidence in it as well. Like, you're not, doing the journeys and whatever for the sake of it, or like because you're trying to, dig down in the shadows and find something. It's like when things address it, it just has felt like such a more grounded approach to doing the work. And I've just like, just addressing things as they come up rather than feeling like you need to go searching, because that's where you're going to find the work. Like, life will always show you the things where you do need to do the work. And it's just like you're feeling more attuned to that these days instead of just looking for it.
Yeah, and no doubt there'll be plenty more to do. And I have no doubt that there'll be a new initiation that comes when we bring our girl into the world, and there'll be stuff that comes up. But yeah, upon reflection, there was and Shani said it to me, and a number of other people said it to me, but I needed to find that myself. There was digging that I was doing, and it still serves me, in terms of the stuff that I did find. But at the same time, you can constantly be digging, and you'll always find something as well. So this year was really just addressing that and just honoring the path and honoring whatever bold or issue comes in front of me, as opposed to looking back and looking for older ones. So that would be my win. Yours.
So I know if you've listened to a few of these and you're a long-term listener, you'll know that last year was a huge year of friendships for me. So having a lot of things pop up in friendships for me, and just seeing a lot of sort of patterns that were definitely not serving me. I felt like I was definitely needing to overgive and overshow up and all of the things. It was just, last year was a very intense year when it comes to friendships. Whereas this year, I would say probably from sort of midway through the first 6 months, I started to see the ramifications of like why last year had to be the way that it did. And it was almost like last year was a clearing out of friendships that were, I use this lightly, like not in alignment. And it was really a clearing the way for these incredible friendships to land this year. And it feels like there's been a deepening with the friends that were already on board, and then a, calling in of new friends, which have really just shown me a new level of friendship that I didn't even know was possible. Like, and especially in this season where, we've gotten engaged and we've, fallen pregnant, and like there's so many wins, just like seeing friends who are just like so there by your side, celebrating you, cheering you on. It's just been like so beautiful to see, and it just has made that whole last year struggle of friendships just so worth it, because I got to see why that happened and like why it unfolded the way that it did. But I think as well this year, like I noticed myself really not investing time and energy into friendships that I wanted to work out, and just almost stepping back and like seeing the friendships for what they were rather than what I wanted them to be. And that was just such a powerful thing to do. And it doesn't mean that anything's bad or, anything's wrong with them or wrong with me. It's just like friendships change, and like just like we change, and like different seasons of life call for different relationships and friendships. So it was kind of like letting them go with grace and not needing it to be anything big or dramatic or needed to have a conversation. It's like we'd had conversations in the past. It hadn't landed. We just were speaking, and I know I've spoken about this before, speaking different friendship languages, and that's okay. And so it was just like this real harmonious letting go of the friendships that weren't meant to be in this season of my life. And they may circle back, who knows? And just like really holding space and honoring and like just investing more into the friendships who I really, really want to. And like this just brought so much peace into my life. Like, and I know you've seen this as well firsthand, Blake. It's just like how much headspace friendships took up last year, and like questioning myself and questioning friendships and seeing like figuring out where I was standing. Whereas this year it's just like everything's felt rock solid. I felt solid myself as a friend and the friends around me. So that's been like the biggest win.
Almost say that it's one of my favorite wins this year. Is that for you? Like, and there's so many new people that have come in over the last 12 months, but Lily, Joelle, Lainey, Mon, and even recently Grace, like they're the most fucking epic humans. Like anyone who has any of those type of women in their life are so fortunate, and they're just the most fucking beautiful humans. And just to, I've said it to you for a number of years. I remember saying something along these lines at your 30th speech of just how much you give and how much you deserve back. And not that you give to get, but just, it's nice to see those friendships come full circle back. And, they're just the most fucking beautiful girls. And it's also just allowed you to free that headspace up for like other things, knowing that they are easy, knowing that they are clean, knowing that there's no like attachment styles playing out and just kind of murkiness. And, a pretty, obviously, kind of Grace is new to my world, but the other girls, I've even sent them messages just thanking them for coming into our lives, and in particular your life. And to think, in the space of, 12 months, you didn't know Lily 12 months ago, you kind of knew Lainey, and Joelle, I can't remember if you knew her, but like, it shows what's possible in the space of 12 months. You literally met Lily for the first time 12 months ago at your 30th birthday when we went to
Yeah.
the restaurant. You didn't know it. So,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
just feels like she's been part, of our lives for so long. And obviously Jay
Mm,
and I are super close now as well. So I really want to just speak to that briefly because it is a very common thing, albeit it's not spoken of. And I know it's even more common in the female space, the kind of sister wounds and things that play out. And I know, when we've done podcasts on that in the past, you've had people reach out going, thank you for
mhm.
voicing it and talking to it, because it's this like unspoken niggle amongst so many women. It happens a little bit with blokes, but definitely not to
Yeah.
the level that it does with women. So, if there are females that are struggling with friendships or whatever, just for you to be evidence of what's possible, and again, calling
Mhm.
in just, the fucking most beautiful women, all of which you deserve. And, I've known
Mhm.
you've deserved them for so long. And it's just nice to see them come in.
Yeah, thank you, my man. Yeah, it just feels like a next evolution. And I know so many mums, they say before they have a baby, it's like it is a bit of a clear out because when you're a mum, you don't have time for bullshit. You don't have time for games. You don't have
Mm,
time for wondering where you stand. It's like you just want the women in your life who are rock solid. So it feels like a deepening of friendships. Even my school friends, it's a deepening of friendships with them, back in Melbourne, but then also a calling in and deepening of like the friendships here in Byron. So yeah, super, super grateful for the women in my life at the moment.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
All right. That's life. On to
that's life.
business. In challenge. What do you got?
Okay, I would say I'll start with the challenge again and then we'll move to the win. Challenge was definitely changing my business model end of last year. So I stopped doing websites, which was after a very hectic client situation, which I won't go into because I just want to put that mentally to bed, but pretty much closed up $100,000 offer in my business, which was huge to pretty much do overnight. And at the same time, I invested the most I've ever invested in a business coach for a whole year of mentoring. And usually in the past, when I've invested, it's like gotten me an immediate return and like it's turned around really quick. But that was not the case this year. It felt like a real slog for the first like 6 months of the year, turning my business ship metaphorically around and re educating my audience that, I wasn't a website designer anymore. I was going all in on business coaching, sorry. And that was amazing, but I had like such a big revenue gap to fill. And it just felt like every month I was like chasing my tail, chasing my tail, chasing my tail. So that was like a really challenging thing to happen at the start of the year. That coupled with like, we want to have a baby soon. I want to have our foundation set. I hadn't had that bigger overheads in my business for a very long time. So I was super proud of myself for like going all in and allowing myself space to really go all in on my coaching business. Are you okay if I segue into the win because it kind of goes part and
Segue.
parcel?
Go
Okay,
for it.
segue away. Then I would say probably like 4 months, 4 months, 5 months into the year, I really realized that I hadn't been embodying and embracing like the brand aspect of who I am and my gifts. And I love branding and I love like taking, someone's idea from their head and like translating it into life and bringing their brand to life. And I hadn't been I'd literally thrown the baby out with the bathwater. I was like, all design. I'm not a designer anymore. I'm a business coach, and this is it. But really, what like something magical started to happen is when I bought the branding and the business coaching together, like combined my genius, was when I really found like a niche in like the whole world of business. And that really, really turned things around pretty quickly was when I started to like weave them both together. So it was such a big lesson for me to like not have to throw it all out. I'm very much someone of like, okay, I've got to show to the universe that I'm committed and I'm going to throw websites out. I'm not going to be a designer. I'm going to be a business coach and I'm getting into alignment. But what that happened is it put me in a really, really hard position. And yeah, having those big overheads and really feeling so stretched, I wasn't able to kind of like really be in my feminine and flow and creativity. But as soon as I started to pair my genius and like not have to throw out the whole the whole brand piece because it's something that I love and I'm really good at, was when things really, really started to like turn around in my business, which is cool.
I think the thing that's always stood out to me and potentially that I've taken for granted is you just get on with it. And, we're in a fortunate position where we're surrounded by people running their own businesses and so many talented people. And for a lot of these talented people, there's so much procrastination, fear of being seen, fear of showing up on social media, and they've just got $1 million ideas that sit in their head. And, from an empathetic place, I can only assume that
they get sick of their own shit, let alone,
Mm.
partners that are like, fuck, am I listening to this same story again? Like, I've never had that with you. I've never been like, hey, babe, we're here for the fourth time talking about this same thing. Like that,
Yeah.
you can kind of package that up how you want, but the reality is that most people would be frustrated by listening to their partner saying the same shit over and over again. And that's never been the case with you. You just get on with it. And it just, it makes our relationship lighter. And I know obviously this has been the first year of business in a new dynamic, and that comes, with a little bit of challenge. But overall, because you just have a crack, it makes you lighter and therefore our relationship lighter as well. And, from a business coach point of view, the integrity and the embodiment that comes because you have a crack and you're telling these other people to have a crack, whereas, you could be saying, have a crack, and you're still sitting there behind procrastinating or carrying on. Like, you just get on with it. So yeah, it is one of your great skills that you just get on and have a proper crack.
Yeah, and like there was many breakdowns and
We've seen plenty of
crackets
them.
crackets at the start of the year. And I think it was a really hard piece for me being like, okay, well, like I am a business coach. Like, I it was like I was being my own client and like going through my own processes. So I was just being initiated on like every single level, which was really fucking hard, but also just like made me the coach that I am today. So I'm so grateful, but also so grateful just for you for like holding space for me to like, it's not easy going to your partner being like, hey, I'm just gonna like stop making $100,000, dollars in this offer, and just like, can you kind of hold space for that? So I'm really grateful for you just holding me through that, and like, financially supporting us while like I was still making money, but you still held a lot of the ship while I navigated that change. So I'm so grateful for you just allowing me and not thinking I'm crazy and letting me go through my process.
Well, I don't know about you, but in my world, it's very common for people to have an idea and a dream only to be shut down by, their friends, their family, but even worse, by their partner. So to be able, like, I'd never question it, even if it was, as you said, shutting down a $100,000 business and starting from the scratch. Like, the most important thing for me, when it comes to you and business, is you in alignment. And if you making $100,000 on this, in particular, this offer is not in alignment, then that takes away from your radiance and your energy and your alignment. So yes, we copped a solid hit at the start of the year from a financial point of view, but there's an energy that comes about from you that is one of your best traits, and a purity that comes when you're in alignment. So that was always going to be an easy tick.
And I think you saw like how much stress I was under. I'd had like the crazy client situation, and it was just like there was a lot of, stones in my shoes that were all coming from websites. So for you, it's like, I know that you pulling this, from your office suite is actually going to bring you more alignment. And it's really funny. This may be an interesting story for some, but I remember a long-term relationship before you was probably maybe 4 or 5 years before we met. And this was before I had started any business. And I remember turning to, my boyfriend at the time, and I was in a stable job, climbing the corporate ladder and making, good money in corporate. And I said, oh, I really want to start my business. I want to start a meal delivery business. And he just goes, no, how are you going to do that when we've got to save for a house and have a baby? Like, that's not happening. And I just remember thinking, wow, you are not my human. Like, to shut down a dream without even a conversation, that was just like the biggest, red flag for me. And it wasn't long after that, we obviously parted ways for many other reasons. But the reality is that so many women and men would face that, where their partner doesn't fully believe in them. And it's like, they say that they do, but then when push comes to shove and they say, okay, it's go time, they're like, no, well, how are we going to pay for the house and how are we going to do this? So yeah, I'm just so grateful to have a partner who fully supports all the crazy ideas.
Yeah, well, at some stage we're going to tell our daughter and potentially other kids to go and dream and live their life and live their best life. I find it a little bit of an integrity issue. And if your parent, if the parents aren't doing the same thing, and I know this is a common theme across households all around the world, telling your kids to go and live the dream, and then like, well, mum, dad, you guys aren't living your dream. It just feels like a little bit of an integrity piece for me.
Yeah.
So to see you continuously live your dream as it evolves is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love that.
Win and challenge business.
Yeah, have you done win and challenge?
Not yet, not yet. Challenge was, I had a mastermind this year called Life by Design, and love the name, love the concept, but just didn't nail it at any stage really this year. And I'm so grateful for everyone that's been involved in it and been in the program, and I've learned a lot. But at no stage was it really clear what my message was. Late last year, I set an avatar, and anyone who's seen my avatar documents, like, dude, that is fucking one of the greatest avatar documents.
I think everyone knows your avatar. Successful Steve, Mindful Mandy.
Successful Steve and Mindful Mandy. Everyone's seen the document, like, dude, that is fucking exceptional. But I actually didn't speak to Successful Steve all that much this year. And in terms of my offerings, and in particular Life by Design, it wasn't really set up for Successful Steve. So old mate Steve's been in the background, just kind of waiting for his opportunity. And yes, I called in a lot of kind of Successful Steves in one-on-one, but from a group offering, I didn't have anything for him. So really grateful for Life by Design, and in particular, the new friendships and faces that we've come across through that program, and just didn't quite nail the position of that offer, which is about to change. So that would be the challenge. The win is from January, in terms of the numbers, to my November numbers, my income has doubled in terms of just pure income. I think overall, I looked at Stripe today and I'm up about 40% in Stripe from last year, which to double my income, or 40%, depending kind of on the numbers, and do a lot less than I did last year is a massive win. And I know I'd like this to kind of be evidence for those that think they have to work harder to make more, because I know this is a glass ceiling for a lot of people. They're like, the thought of increasing their income by 40% or doubling, from the start of the year to the end, consciously or unconsciously for a lot of people, is a thought that they have to necessarily double their work. And at one point last year, I was running 3 programs at the same time. And this year I only ran 1 program for the whole year, obviously one-on-ones, journeys. But overall, I would say my workload is somewhere between half and 1/3 of what it was last year. So that's been a massive win for me. And even just setting the business up in a position that doesn't change much next year when we have a kid. Like I have been playing the long game for really the last kind of 18 months, considering and thinking what is sustainable from having a kid point of view, but not just what's sustainable, like what will work in terms of me being heavily involved in, kind of parenting, as opposed to, you just go to 9, the average kind of dad that goes to 9 to 5 and comes back and does what he can. Like, I want to be a lot more hands-on than that. And I've set myself up where not really a huge amount is going to change. So that kind of feels just as valuable to me as the financial wins from this year as well. So that's my win and challenge.
Yeah.
Love
it. I also just want to acknowledge you as well, because a lot of these moves that you've made in business, like, from the outside person, they're like, oh, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would you stop a mastermind that you've got people in and you're making money from? And like, it doesn't make logical sense, but you just knew, hang on a minute, like, I know that this doesn't feel right for me. So I love that you're never afraid to, make those decisions, and because you know that something bigger is coming.
Well, that's the nature of both how you and I have operated, is we shut down things that don't necessarily feel right. And I look at next year and I don't imagine shifting that. Like, that feels really true for me. In terms of where I'm going with the mastermind and the inner circle, and I'm still enjoying one-on-ones. So it's just been a case of refining what is a fit to the point where it feels really good where we're at.
Also interesting that it's always around, and I don't know the exact dates, but it's like always around October that you have this like full business clear out, and you're like, nope, that's got to go. Then it's like you spend the last quarter kind of tidying up loose ends, resetting. And then it's like literally January 1, you're like ready with your new, like an evolved business model. So I think it's a really cool process that I've seen, unfold the last pretty much 3 years.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. It's just kind of worked out that way, which is cool. Win and challenge for love. We'll start with challenge.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, I think we can kind of both talk to this, but it felt like before we fell pregnant, it was kind of like this clear out of, stuff that had been ruminating and that we'd been kind of circling on over and over again, but we never had really found solid ground. Like, we'd moved through it, but it was still kind of just lingering. And they weren't big things, but it kind of just felt like those stones in our shoes that we would just, keep trudging along, but they were always there and always present. So it felt like that just before we fell pregnant, and I know we spoke about this on the last episode, the heat just turned up on those issues. And again, they're not big, but the heat turned up, and it almost was just this clear out of any baggage, any residue in our relationship that needed to be cleared out, which kind of culminated in that, big quote unquote blow up that was like the week that we conceived. Yeah. So it was almost like that was quite a challenge, that it just felt like we were going into this season knowing that we want to fall pregnant, but not kind of being at our best. But I'm so glad we went in and did the work. And I think that's going to segue nicely into our win, because it just feels like now we're in like the best version of us. And it just feels light and playful and fun. And like, yeah, it feels like we've just moved through so much heaviness that we now can like really, really just enjoy this chapter in this season before our little girl comes earthside.
Well, I think what you said is important for people to be super mindful of, because your words were that they weren't that big. And the problem for a lot of couples is that little things that aren't that big become big things if they're not dealt with. And they didn't become big, but they were just niggles that continued to kind of just be there. And we've found ourselves in two of these dances over the last 2 years, because we had a similar thing at the start of last year. And what's really interesting is it required MDMA therapy on both occasions to actually break it up. Last year we did it together. This year I did it on my own. And this year it caused an explosion first in terms of the week after, which is very different to how I normally respond from MDMA therapy. I'm normally kind of very blissful, but it was like I was angry. I was real angry at life off the back of this last one.
It's so funny.
It's
you were not enjoyable to be around, but that's okay.
Nah. So that all came to the surface. But, I think we've said this on a couple of podcasts now, like sometimes you need to bring in the big guns to just move stuff that doesn't want to be moved. And the way that I look at our relationship and the way that I look at relationships, even from a relationship coaching point of view, is to be able to constantly clean the vessel between each other, constantly. And one of the things that came up, for me to work on, this is very kind of real for me still, is that that even came up in last week's relationship coaching session for Shani and I, is that for whatever reason, and this is for me to explore with my coach, I do struggle to let go easily of former stuff. And, a few people will have a laugh at this because they can see it. That does mean that I do carry a chip on my shoulder, an unnecessary chip at times. And that's something that I'm mindful of. And I want to get to a more peaceful and harmonious place with that, over the course of the next 12 months, just because it's healthy, but also because I'm bringing a daughter into the world. So, we'll have little kind of niggles, and 5 minutes later, Shani's all good, and there's rainbows and sunshine and unicorns, and she's been able to let go of it, and I'm still carrying it for another couple of hours. So I don't know. A
couple of hours, really?
Sometimes longer. I don't know what's at the core of that, but that letting go piece is something for me to address, which I know is, a bit of a thorn in our relationship. So that'd be the challenge. The win, I mean, there's some really obvious wins. Anytime you put an engagement and a pregnancy in the space of a year, and really in the space of 3 months, it's a wild year. And that was a wild like 2 months in terms of announcing them both, to our friends, and then obviously through social media. It was like there was just, you wanted to get back to everyone who sent us, such nice messages and well wishes. I just felt like for probably 4 weeks I was on the phone getting back to people, and that's the bloke side of things. There'd be a lot more going on the female side of things in terms of
Instagram actually flagged me, and it said there's been suspicious behavior on your account. I don't think I told you that, but it was like flagging me saying something's going on with your account, because I was like just again trying to get back to everyone and wanted to just acknowledge all the beautiful messages. But yeah, it was like, with those two things, then plus chuck your 40th on top of that, like it's a really big year.
It's been a big year. I think, and I spoke about this on another podcast, so I don't want to kind of go into it in too much detail, but more, I guess, because Shani's here, gives a different perspective. I think that the biggest win for me that stands out in our relationship is just how we've navigated the first 20 weeks. And, we've had a dream run, kind of knock on wood, so far. But what kind of stands out above all else to me is knowing that everything that we're doing now and everything that we've done over the last 20 weeks is impacting her. And, if we were really stressed, if Shani was really stressed, if Shani wasn't taking care of her health, if, our life was somewhat of a circus, the implications and the impact that that has on our future daughter is wild. And if you kind of want to explore the research, it's worth it. But to really have this beautiful settled home and just this little cocoon that we've had for the last 20 weeks, which has really protected her and protected her energy and protected, Shani and her's nervous system, we're really, we've set her up well so far. And, that the real work hasn't really begun, but we have done 20 weeks of, I guess, just setting her up as best as possible. And I'm really, proud of just that first, the first stage. And obviously now stage 2 kind of kicks in with another 18 to 20 weeks, depending. And, I have no doubt that not a huge amount is going to change, from a negative side of things. We'll keep doing what we're doing. But by the time she actually comes earthside, to have 40 weeks in a really well-nested, low-stress environment is an absolute gift that I think we can give her.
Yeah, and it's just been so beautiful, like building and, connecting to this little soul that we have no idea who she is, what she's like, but just like loving her to bits. And it just feels like so beautiful to, kind of go through this like pre-stage of falling in love with something that isn't even here yet. It's like the weirdest concept. Yeah, and I think like another win is just really getting to enjoy the life that we have created. Like I think, once or twice a week, we both just turn to each other and we just say like, how good is life? And like, how lucky that we get to live this life. And, it's even doing the small things. Like it could be that we're, having a kombucha end of the day and, getting dinner ready or going for a swim at the beach or, just enjoying like dinner with friends. And it's just like there's so many moments where, just this deep immense gratitude for this life that we've created. And I know it's taken a lot of, wrong turns, hard decisions here, but it's just so beautiful to be able to really relish in this chapter.
Yeah, and we obviously have very different upbringings, but between the two of us, the different upbringings and the split families and at least from my side of things, a very chaotic upbringing. I really didn't want that. I just don't want her to experience that at all. And I'd love for her to not even know that. And one of the best ways that we can make sure that she doesn't know about that chaotic is really set her up well in these early stages. And, I know there's so much to learn in terms of what's healthy to protect her from and what is healthy to expose her to. But I look at a lot of the trauma and the dysfunction, and I don't see necessarily that she needs to be exposed to that. So I'd love for her just to feel settled and at ease and at peace and loved from the day that she comes out, which she will. But knowing that 40 weeks of her experience already has set her up well. So that would be a win for sure.
I love it. I love it. She's brought so much joy into our life and she's not even here yet. It's crazy.
It's wild. And also just amazing and so grateful. And I know we say this a lot, for the support that we've had from people around us. It's I found it overwhelming numerous times. So I just needed to take a bit of a breather, but it's been amazing, the amount of support and love that's come from that. And, I just keep coming back to and thinking how lucky she'll be to have, so many amazing people around her. We've obviously got family and Shani's got a bigger family than me, which will, be really helpful. But outside of family, our friends that are just fucking the most unbelievable humans, for her to experience that type of love and care is, it's the greatest gift that we can give. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be an eyelash pull there. We're close.
I got close.
We were so close. You did pretty well, made it whole through the episode. That was good.
I wasn't sure if I was going to make it through, but there's no eyelash pulling today, guys.
Sorry to disappoint.
Sorry to disappoint you. Guys, that is a wrap. That is our 2024. Who knows what's coming in 2025, but we'll be back on the reg to keep you guys updated. Peace.